welcome back to my channel. I'm Emmy. You might know me from my Instagram, Emmy Painting Positivity. Today I'm going to show you how to create some fun flower doodles using watercolour and pens. I'll be sharing lots of these sweet, simple tutorials, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you never miss out on a video. Start by splitting your page into thirds. I'm using an A5 watercolour sketch pad. Draw around something circular. This is a bottle top. It's around 1.5 inches in diameter. Draw 6 circles for where each of the floral doodles is going to be. Draw this quite lightly as you are going to put watercolour over the top of it and you don't want to see it through. I'm now sketching out small circles for where the heads of the flowers are going to be. So there's 2 here on the left hand side, but now I'm going to draw 3 on this side. Again, I'm doing these really lightly so that when I'm drawing I'll use them as a guide, but when I do the watercolour I'll have been able to rub them out. So 2 again on this side and 3 on the other, but it was the other way around in the centre flowers. Now using a 0.2 pen, I'm going to start drawing the flowers. So I'm starting with a small circle in the middle of my pencil circles and adding teardrop shaped petals to the top and the bottom, a little bit like a bow tie. Now I'm going to fill in the gaps to the sides with petals. Some of the lines don't need to come all the way back to the centre, as these are the petals that are behind, like this one. Now repeat for the second flower. Each petal in one motion where possible to make it a nice smooth line, and 6 petals per flower. Now I'm adding in the stems, and this second stem is going to join the first. And adding in some large leaves. Where possible, I'm keeping my pen on the paper for nice smooth lines. I'm now using a thicker pen to add some detail to the centre, so just going around that original circle to give it some depth. And now I'm using a 0.1 pen to add some lines to the petals, some longer lines towards the edge, smaller lines towards the centre. Three or 4 lines per petal. Try and make them slightly curved, not straight. I'm going to add 3 little dots to the centre of each of these flowers to show some texture. Now I'm going to add some lines to my leaves. I'm doing these in long, fluid motions, so the lines haven't got any breaks and they're not all jerky. It's quite difficult to get them equally spaced, so just go nice and slowly. I'm going to do the same on this second leaf. These ones are going a little bit better. And now I'm just going to add some small circles around the flowers for a little bit of extra detail. And that's my first flower doodle finished. So this second flower is going to be more like a cone flower. So I'm drawing these centres, so a small semicircle, and then we're going to show the petals coming off the bottom of those centres. So draw a tear shape upside down, coming back in as a point to the top. Some of the petals are going to be underneath others, so I'm just drawing these sort of semicircles round and making sure not to overlap the lines. Repeat for all three. And now I'm adding in the stems, and each of these flowers is on its own individual stem. And these tiny leaves, I'm just adding, thinking about where I'm going to put them so that they're in the space, or if they go behind, they don't overlap. I'm going to add these lines to the petals, and like circular rounded lines, 2 on the petals that you can see all of the petal, and just 1 on the ones that are slightly hidden, just to give the petals some shape. I'm going to add a line from top to bottom on every single one of these leaves as well. I think with floral doodles, it's quite often the more details the better, and they start to look really cute. Now I'm adding 3 little dots to the centres to, again, similarly to the last one, give it the illusion of texture. Now I'm adding little circles around the flowers like we did with the first flower. There we go, there's your second doodle. Number 3. So we're going to draw these little circles round in a ring in the centre of the pencil circle. This is going to be the centre of your flower. Doesn't matter how many circles, some of mine have got 5, some 6. Just keep them nice and small and delicate. Now do a tear shaped petal coming out from those circles. Doesn't matter if there's slight gaps between your petals. I like to think it looks like they've been blown in the wind. Keep moving around your flower until all of the space is full. As I was saying earlier, try and do each petal in one fluid motion so you don't get any sort of breaks or jerkiness. Now add the stems. So these ones are all going to join together at the bottom, and this stem is behind this flower, so making sure to just draw it in the gaps between the petals. I'm going to add some long floppy leaves like this, and add a small dot to each petal for some detail. And now some small circles around the outside, and that is our third doodle done. Moving on to the fourth doodle. So I'm starting similarly to the first one with a circle in the middle of the pencil circle, but this one's got pointy petals, so I'm going up, round, into a point and down. Again, do one at the top, one at the bottom, and then do these side ones, so you've got 4 petals like this. And now we're going to fill in the gaps between these petals. Now I'm drawing the stem, one long smooth line, and this one is going to join on. I'm going to add these tiny little leaves on their own stems as well. With each one of these doodles, I've tried to make the leaves slightly different, just so we're doing nice and variety, and the same with the flowers. All 6 are different petals, different flowers, so there's some variety. Add the small petals as you go down the stems. And now I'm adding a line to each of the flower petals. Just draw a line down the centre. Not all of mine are perfectly straight. That's okay. And now I'm adding these little twirls to each stem, just for some details, and some little circles using the thinner pen again. Moving on to our fifth doodle. So I'm starting with this little cone shape. I'm up and round for a square petal, and then doing these sort of semicircular hook shapes out to the sides, which are going to be petals. There we go, joined up now. You can see they were sort of petals that are half hidden. You might want to pause it here if you are going along with me. These ones can be a little trickier just to get those petal shapes. Adding those petals around the back so you can only just see the tops of them, and adding the stems, one stem slightly longer than the other. And this one has got teardrop shaped leaves, so upside down teardrops. Again, another different shape of leaf, and I'm going to add some little seeds to these flowers on the stems, seeds or buds. I'm going to add a line to the centre of each leaf and some small lines to the petals for detail. Now I didn't change my pen here, but if you wanted to drop down to the slightly thinner pen, that would definitely work here. And I'm adding some small circles around the flowers, and there we go, that's the fifth one finished. So for this sixth flower, it's very simple. I'm just doing these upside down teardrop shapes, very like the bubble flowers I've done in other tutorials if you've seen any of my other videos. And this third flower is going to be upside down, so you might want to move the paper around just so it's comfortable to draw here. And then I'm going to draw these little mini shapes in the centre, so mirroring the bigger shape. One inside each of the petals, and a line within each one of those. Not coming right out to the edge, just finishing sort of 3/4 way up. And I'm adding in the stem, and this one is going to all join into one stem. Now I'm adding quite large floppy leaves, so this one here is going to flop over like this, and this one as well. Making sure that where they're behind the flowers, I'm not sort of overlapping that flower, and I'm adding 2 lines to each leaf for some detail. Now I'm going to add some dots to each petal in slightly different areas of each petal, so they're not all the same. And there we go, there is our 6 floral doodles. Now I'm going to rub out the pencil, carefully leaving the larger circle so we know where to put our watercolour, but getting rid of the smaller circles. Starting with Permanent Rose from my Winsor & Newton watercolour set, I'm adding a lot of water and using my size 12 brush, I'm going to swoop it round the circle here, giving the nice crisp circular shape. Washing my brush off, now I've got very little paint on my brush, mostly water, and I'm just blending that paint in across the rest of the circle and just making sure I've got a nice circular shape here. So it's darker on one side and almost sort of translucent on the other side. So I'm doing 2 in that Permanent Rose, and now I'm moving on to a violet. Again, exactly the same process, lots of water in my paint, lots of water on my brush, and I'm swooping the brush around to the side and making the darker side on the right hand side of the circle this time. And then I'm washing my brush off, getting rid of the paint off my brush, dabbing it off slightly, but you can see I've still got quite a lot of water on my brush. You can see it there on the paper, and I'm blending that paint that's already there around to the other side of the circle. And now I'm moving on to a purple lake. I'm doing the same process. It's a bit of a brighter purple, and I'm just adding that paint in a swooshing motion and then cleaning my brush off, adding some water and blending that paint out to make those circular shapes. The paint here is quite wet, so don't worry about if you haven't got the shape perfect straight away, you can adjust. Now I'm going to use this leftover paint off my palette to add some small dots of paint around these circles. So I'm adding purple here, around this purple circle, and then the same, and I'll do the same with the pink as well, so pink dots around these pink circles. And there we have it, 6 different floral doodles and watercolour washes.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and leave me a comment. And if you try the tutorial and share it on Instagram, tag me, Emmy Painting Positivity. I'd absolutely love to see what you create.